Welcome in, Jake West, Director of Team F1 Sports, joined by Caleb Tallman. This is the Western North Carolina Shootaround presented by Team FYN Sports. Caleb, basketball underway in Western North Carolina, fully underway as Robbinsville played their first game last night. Walk us through some of the games, and I think you've got some highlights and stuff with us. Just take us in whatever direction you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you here with me, Jake. Basketball is in full swing for the conference now. As you said, we can say it's 100% in full swing because while we're sad that Robbinsville lost in football, which was a surprise, and me and you may talk about that in our season wrap-up show for the Friday night press box in a week or two here once we give out our season awards and stuff. And I'll go ahead and plug that because I know a lot of our viewers have just switched from watching us in football to watching us in basketball. But hey, guys, go to our Facebook page and find our Google sheet that Jake made and vote for the Western North Carolina Football Player Awards. We've got, I'm kind of shocked, Jake. I knew people thought you were cool, I guess, but we've got thousands of votes on that thing already, don't we?
Yeah, I think we're at 4,000 votes on it right now.
Insanity. So if you've not voted yet, we've not decided when we're closing the polls, but it's going to be soon. So
we're gonna close them on Wednesday next Wednesday. So a week from today, we're gonna close it, and we're gonna air our Friday night press box Western North Carolina awards show for football on Thursday night when it usually airs. So. Get your votes in and please tune in and watch us as we highlight some of these kids individually on next Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. But go ahead and share with us real quick, Jake, about that Robbinsville game a little bit. I know you said you had a few stats, and we'll talk about girls first, and maybe we'll catch up with the boys game here in a little bit.
Yeah, the girls game started out just as you would expect. I mean, the Lady Knights were leading Highlands 19-11 after the first, and then at halftime it was 35-19. Dessa Trammell had 11 points in the first half. Zoe Schuler had 8 in the first half, and then just to end the game, it was 59-39. Dessa Trammell ended up with 20 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals. Jimenez had 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 steals, 2 assists, and 1 block. So she filled up the stat sheet. And then Zoe Schuler had 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 block for the Lady Knights. So obviously good to start out with a good win. But a team we don't really talk about in Highlands because they're in the Little Swingy Mountain Conference. But I mean, I know it's 59-39, but they held their own. And I think you said they almost ended up beating Cherokee earlier in the year. So,
yeah. And you know, all the games we talk about, we promise have occurred unless we say otherwise within the last week. So from last Wednesday to this Wednesday when the show comes out, that's the range of games we're talking about. So we might not always have the exact day whether they played on Thursday or Friday, but within the last week, Cherokee girls and Highlands girls played to a tune of 52-49. So maybe Highlands girls, especially since they had a pretty decent showing against Robbinsville, are better than they have been in years past. They have had some pretty strong years at times. One of the things I'll mention too, though, is, you know, it's Robbinsville's first game, right? And then, golly, Cherokee girls basketball, Jake, Cherokee boys basketball for that matter, just ride the wave. I mean, like when you look at Cherokee girls basketball, they beat a really good Franklin girls team, then they lose to Pisgah, and then they beat Highlands, but only by 3. And then I know apparently Pisgah was missing some players, but then they beat Pisgah by 20. I mean, so Cherokee girls just riding the wave of, from what I've heard, Jake, and maybe we'll get to see that. We're hoping to maybe get, one of Cherokee's games surely will be live on FYN TV soon enough when they come to Hayesville or when they get over at Murphy or somewhere. We'll find a way to get them with us. But I've heard that they live and die by the 3. That they can shoot as hot as anyone in the state, and when they're hot, they're really tough to beat because not only will they make the 3, they're going to take a lot of them. But then when they go cold, they go really, really cold. And, I'm sure that has to do with the way teams are playing defense on them. But that could be the kind of year we could see Cherokee come in third, where I think we have them predicted in girls basketball. But maybe it's one of those situations where, they take Robbinsville or Murphy to edge or even beat one or two of them. Because, last year that was almost a really big factor, Jake, because I think when Robbinsville, tell me if I'm right here, when Robbinsville played Murphy that last game of the season, that was, the pseudo conference championship, Robbinsville had lost to Cherokee earlier in girls basketball. So the way it was going to work out is if Robbinsville won, they were outright champs because they just had more wins than Murphy. Or even if there was a tie scenario, they would have had the record against them. But if Murphy would have won, they would have been split. But that Murphy would have been the conference champs because Robbinsville lost to Cherokee. So that could definitely be something that comes into play and definitely something to watch for, especially if teams like the Cherokee girls. We'll talk about the Swain girls here in a minute, because I think all folks agree that we're looking those top two to be Robbinsville and Murphy girls, but teams like Swain and Cherokee, as far as conference opponents could give them a tough game on any given night.
Yeah, I agree. And if you want to pull up Swain's schedule and tell us what they did last week, that'd be good. But I think Swain and Cherokee, like you said, are definitely contenders, and they could knock off one of these two teams. I mean, if more so probably Murphy than Robbinsville, but when you look at Murphy, they've lost some girls. They lost a lot to graduation. They lost some girls that just aren't playing this year. And it kind of comes down to if Torrin's not playing good, if she's not on her A game, I could definitely see Cherokee or Swain knocking off Murphy or Robbinsville. And I think that's kind of why we had Robbinsville ranked number one ahead of Murphy, because they're kind of more of the complete team at this point. But we'll see. I mean, we're still early in the year. Murphy, we'll learn a lot about Murphy girls tonight when they play Inca. But yeah, tell us about the Swain girls. They've got some big wins under their belt.
Yeah, the Swain girls. And we'll pull it up because we can talk over that one. As long as I put the right highlight in. Swain girls played Franklin, and they lost to Franklin, Jake, by a final score of 65-52. But they led at halftime. I mean, really good game. These highlights are compliment of the Maroon Devil Network, but you can see when there's a difference. This is the first half. Obviously, the highlights go in chronological order. And Swain's girls were hot from three. They had some really good finishes inside. And really the highlight reel is pretty much all Swain. And then you get to the second half, and it's all Franklin. And so very interesting here. But what it shows you, though, is because Franklin's a really good girls team, Jake. It just shows you that on any given night, Swain's girls, if they play like they did in the first half against Franklin, they can really put it on teams because they got a lot of girls that will take and make threes at times.
Yeah, one thing, just looking from their highlights, obviously I haven't seen Swain in person yet, but they look like aside from one girl, they look like they're pretty small.
Yeah, they do have one girl, and they got another girl, Jake. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. She's not huge, but she's like height-wise, but she's big and muscular and really pushes people around underneath the paint. But yeah, they don't have a ton of size.
I think that could play a factor. As you said, I mean, they got really hot in the first half and hit a lot of threes. So that could really play a factor if somebody's just really dogging them down low. But what's Swain's girls are what?
1 and 2. But that comes with a loss to a really good Smoky Mountain program. And that comes with a loss to Franklin. So, I mean, you're not – those two losses aren't losses where you're like, oh, boy. You know what I mean? And they killed Blue Ridge just like you'd expect them to.
Yeah, so, I mean, and like we said, I mean, it's still early. They're still kind of rounding out. I was trying to pull it up. I accidentally pulled up their boys. Let's see. Here they are. Here's the roster. The Blankenship girl, I don't know how much she's playing, but I think she's taller girl, and they've got the one of their guards is also a freshman. I mean, this is when you look at this team as a whole, they are really young. So I think even if they don't really pull off the upset like we think they might this year, I think they could see themselves rise to the top when at in the next couple years. Because I mean, they've got you look at their roster: junior, freshman, junior, sophomore. Only one senior listed on their Max Preps roster. So, I mean,
Yeah, and I tell you what, you saw her make a couple big plays early. Arizona Blankenship, she's going to be a player. I mean, just as a freshman.
yeah,
And that's one of the things we'll get into that a little bit more too. But there's some really good freshman girls around the conference this year, Jake.
yeah, there is. But yeah, like we were saying, I mean, keep your eye on Swain, keep your eye on Swain County girls and and Swain County boys. I mean, I think the boys are 5-0 undefeated. Um, so just two fun teams to watch. If you're a Maroon Devil fan, you got to be happy with what you're seeing on the hardwood.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's as we were talking about freshman girls, I want to get into the Murphy Fanning game a little bit. That was a primetime matchup that I was there, Jake. It lived up to the billing. I've got some highlights from that one. And one of the ones, and I'll mention her, but before we get into highlight, one of those freshmen we mentioned is Addie Johnson. Those would be my two between her and Arizona Blankenship. Those two could be running in for your newcomer of the year award that we like to give out. Whether it's first year on varsity as a junior, or maybe you're a freshman that's came up from the middle school program. But you'll see, I think Addie Johnson had 11. And what a coming out party for a freshman against a really good Fanning girls basketball team.
Yeah, Fanning girls ranked number 3 in AA. They were the state runner-ups last year, GHSA 2A. So big win for the Murphy girls. And it seemed kind of like, I mean, they got hot in the second quarter, pulled away, and then never stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the second quarter is what did the Fanning County girls, and they made a good comeback in the second half. And then here's Addie Johnson with one of her threes. Just to mention that, folks, and there she is again. They left her open back-to-back possessions. Not a good idea. But what I was saying is Murphy's one of those girls teams, especially with Torrin Rogers being the senior leader she is, Jake. They're not going to let teams come back from them when they get up 15 or 20. I mean, because Fannin, if anyone could do it, anyone has the star power, firepower to do it, it's a girls team like Fannin. And they made a good effort, but, they got the game back down into that 10-point range, 8-point range. And I don't know that they ever got it within any closer than 8 after the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, Murphy is as advertised. I thought this game would definitely be a lot closer than the final score said it was. But I mean, I wasn't really high on Murphy this year. I thought they were going to be down a little bit. I still thought they would compete for a conference championship. But I think in the Smoky Mountain Conference, we've got two of the best teams, maybe the two best teams in 1A in North Carolina, in Robbinsville and Murphy.
Yeah, and honestly, I think there's a couple teams like Swain and Cherokee that if they played in another conference, they might be the conference favorite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I definitely think you're right. In Murphy, in Robbinsville, here's my bold prediction for the week, Jake. I know you and I discussed earlier saying let's do some bold predictions this week now that we're into the season enough that we've seen everyone play once. I'm gonna tell you right now, the winner of Murphy Robbinsville, they'll meet up in the playoffs, and the winner of that game is your state champion. That's my prediction. I don't know how bold that really is, but that's my bold prediction for you.
Yeah, I mean that's how we saw it play out last year. So I don't think it should be any different this year. We've got 4 really good girls teams in our conference, and we've got 2 teams that are kind of turning the corner and trying to rebuild their program. I mean, Hayesville was a powerhouse girls program back in the day, and they're rebuilding. Coach McClure's got them headed in the right direction. Same with Andrews. They're rebuilding and they're getting better. I mean, Andrews, my bold prediction that wasn't so bold coming into this year was that Andrews was going to win more games than they have the past 2 years. And I think that's still very possible. I watched Andrews play Hiwassee Dam last night. Their boys came away. Boys game was really close, and their girls show a lot of promise. So what's your takeaway from those 2 teams that are in the bottom of our conference?
Yeah, and that's one of the ones, Jake. And I actually, as we started our show, I got a text from Chad McClure from their box score firm, Nant and Hale, last night. So I'm pulling that up as we speak. But I think one of the things you take from both of those teams is they each have a girl on the team that can fill it up. Andrew's got Emily Miller, and I think she had 18 against Tellico playing. It's really impressive. And I know sometimes you say it's in garbage time or whatever. I don't care. When you're consistently and your team's getting dogged a little bit, but you're consistently putting up 15 plus points a game, that just shows your abilities as a scorer. And then same thing for Hayesville, Lila Payne. She's going to take a lot of shots, and some nights she's going to make a lot of shots because she definitely has the ability to get hot. I was looking at it just from last night, Jake, and I know it's Nant and Hala, but she had 20 against Nant and Hala last night, and so and they won that game 80-28, and that's no crazy thing, but 20 points is still 20 points.
Yeah.
I when we go play rec ball, Jake, I don't think either of us are dropping 20 anymore regardless of who the opponent is. But I just think that when you have a girls that can fill it up, they got chances. And I think, you look at Hayesville especially, and I know just a little bit more about them. They're really young. They have 2 freshman post players. They're getting a lot of time. And so I think it's one of those teams where they're going to take their lumps early, but we come conference tournament time, if they can find a way to finish in that 5th or 4th range and not get matched up with the number 1 seeds early, I think they could have a chance to pull off an upset or two and sneak their way into playoffs. And especially on the girls' side, there's been a lot of years we've seen it, Jake, where 5 or 6 of our girls' teams will make the playoffs, and I think you'll see that this year too, because our girls' conference is so strong, the RPI scores are going to be high for them. And so it could be a situation where almost similar to football in a way, where you get to playoffs and in the first round, you see 5 Smoky Mountain Conference teams and girls basketball advance to the second round.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the individual effort from the Payne girl and the Miller girl from Andrews and Hayesville. Effort is there, definitely. They're just kind of lacking the all-around talent from top to bottom on their rosters, and I think we see that mainly due to the fact that they're just a smaller school and they can't field the big roster that allows them to compete. But nonetheless, girls basketball in the Smoky Mountain Conference I'd say we've got the best conference in girls basketball in North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone would disagree with that whatsoever. But hey, we're going to get into some boys basketball. We actually have quite a few boys basketball highlights to get through. So, Jake, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into what happened in boys basketball last week. And then in our final segment, we'll talk about the upcoming week. And we even got some games that are going on as our show's going on right now. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the Endless Aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations.
Hey girl, back so soon?
Yeah.
3rd time this morning.
Feeling too familiar with the bathroom these days? It's not just you.
Hey girl, look who made it 15 minutes.
At Erlanger Urology, we make it easy to talk about overactive bladder and treatments that work.
Hey, girl, you not coming in?
No, I'm good.
Well, okay. I'll be here, because I'm stuck.
Learn more at itsnotjustyou.com. Erlanger Urology.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Caleb Tallman back with you here. This is the Western North Carolina Shoot-Around. Jake had to hop off just real quick, but I want to get into some of our highlights from our boys' games. Great week of boys basketball. Just to take you around the conference, some scores. Swain beat Blue Ridge Early College 80-24. Swain also beat Franklin in boys basketball in an incredible game, 83-70. We'll get to those highlights in a minute. Cherokee has played 3 times since our last Wednesday show, losing to Pisgah 60-57, then beating Highlands 56-35. And then Cherokee also came back and played Pisgah for a second time, which we know that because we already talked about it in girls. And hey, similar to the girls game, Cherokee took down Pisgah 83-61. So pretty interesting for both teams. I know the rumor was that Pisgah may have had some kids on quarantine and such. But we won't get into that. Just the fact that Cherokee lost to Pisgah in boys and girls, and then comes back after losing close games, blows them out in both games. So really interesting to see. It just kind of tells you about the volatility of Cherokee. And we've talked about that a lot already, just how both teams, one week can be great, one game can be great, and then, slip up the next. But as I promised, let's get to some of those highlights. Let's start with the Murphy and Phantom boys game, which was played last Saturday. Very, very physical game. Just an absolute ton of free throws. Both teams were foul heavy, especially Murphy. Murphy's got some really good athletes, but look like they're still playing football just a little bit. Which, hey, that might be the way they play it this year because they rotate kids that run around 6'3", 6'4". They've got the Rumler kid, the Scogan kid, got Hunter Delaney, who's senior inside, and they just bang with you. And then what they have, which is really the key for them, is Dylan Brown. He's the straw that stirs the drink for Murphy boys basketball. On any given night, if Dylan Brown was getting foul trouble, I'd be worried for the Murphy boys. But great leader as a junior point guard, and Fannin even had a tough time pressing because you see right there. Look, that was Dylan Brown. Just dribble right through the press. And Fannin got down early, and they made a really big comeback in the fourth quarter, but they were down 20-plus and just never could quite get it to be as close as they were hoping for. But all in all, I think the biggest thing that you have to say about the Murphy-Fannin game was that Murphy shocked Fannin with their physicality. And from the moment the game started, Fannin was just shell-shocked that Murphy, they're just going to come in, and if you're going to get inside on them, you were going to take a hit. And they'd send you to the free throw line. They didn't care. And I know Jake's back with us, and I know, Jake, you know even more about Murphy basketball than I do. But I think that's going to be the MO for Murphy boys this year is, we're not going to have a bunch of elite three-point shooters, but we have enough size and enough athleticism with a great point guard in Dylan Brown. We dare you to come and bang inside with us.
Yeah, their guard play is going to be the biggest question, obviously. Can Cole Laney and Dylan Brown stand up to the test of getting those guys down low, Hunter Laney, Dominic Rumler, and Zach Scogan the ball, because those are going to be where you make your money if you're Murphy, those guys. But I think it was a really good showing. I definitely did not think they were going to be able to go in and win this ball game. But they won it, and they won it in impressive fashion. I think they won by 15 points.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you really see about it for them was that their size is going to be an issue for people this year, Jake. But one of the other things I want to mention too is I think probably you're going to see Dylan Brown be their leading scorer just because he's going to hit some threes for him. But it's not – in some ways, yeah, they don't have the Abraham Abilene that you got to worry about going out and getting 30. It's not a – heck, even if you decide as a team – we're going to throw some gadget defenses at Dylan Brown and make sure he doesn't score. But they're just balanced, Jake. Dylan Brown had 16 against Fannin. Dominic Rumler had 11. Zach Scogan had 10. Hunter Laney had 10. Hunter Laney had 9, excuse me. And I also think, I think Mashburn had 6 or 8. The other Laney, Ty Laney had 6 or 8. I mean, it's like it's balanced. You know what I mean? So yeah. In some ways, that's almost tougher to stop than a team that's got one elite scorer where you're going to focus all your defensive attention. But Murphy's got a bunch of different kids that, I don't think they got a lot of kids that are going to go off for 30 like Abilene would. But I think they got a lot of kids that can have 15-point games. And you get 3 or 4 kids having 15-point games, and it's tough to stop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think Murphy's going to finish second in the conference like they did last year. But I don't think they're going to finish in the bottom, in the very bottom of the conference either. I'll say this. I think Murphy's going to win a couple games that they should not win this year in conference play.
I would agree with that notion. I think one of the things is big thing for Murphy that they're going to have to figure out is can they go from, okay, we're going to bang with you, but they also had 2 kids foul out and another kid get thrown out for a double technical. So can they take it from, okay, we're going to play tough with you, but we'll also keep our players on the floor that we need on the floor. But moving on, let's go over and talk about Andrews and Franklin. And they played, I think it was last Friday or Saturday. And Franklin did win this game. But I think it was Andrews' tenacity in this game and the fact that Andrews got down early because of Franklin's press. But I think what you saw is Andrews, after they got used to the press, really showed something. And so they really hung with Murphy. And I tell you what, if you just like watching basketball, we've talked about this already, go watch Franklin because they've got 2 kids in Griffin Green and Miles McClure that absolutely can fill it up. And they're each averaging a couple dunks a game. So really, really exciting basketball being played in Franklin, win, lose, or draw. And it's really fun right now because we're getting to see them play a lot of our Smoky Mountain Conference opponents. Another big thing is that you see him hit a 3 there it was a coming out party for Keegan Ellis. Keegan Ellis absolutely just lit it up against Franklin. And I think he was somewhere close to 20 points. And I mean, absolutely just in a way shocked some people because I joked with Matt Manley when I was over there on Monday night when they beat Tellico Plains, and we got some highlights from that game as well. But he kind of sandbagged us in his preseason interview saying, yeah, we're not sure if Ellis is going to be on varsity or not. And maybe they really weren't because I talked to their principal too. And their principal just told me, he said, well, he came into practice really ready for basketball. You could tell he'd been working even throughout football season. And he kind of left no doubt as to whether he was going to be on varsity or not. And he played really, really well. And, his older brother, Cade Ellis, is playing at the D2 level in college right now. And Keegan looks just like him. I mean, they shoot alike, they play alike, they have that same basketball savvy. And even though smaller players, you see it, that was Keegan finishing on the fast break over Miles McClure, or under Miles McClure, I should say, a kid that's legitimately got maybe more than a foot of size difference on him. And so I think Andrews is really young. I think they're a team similar to maybe the Swain girls that 2 or 3 years down the road, they're going to be really, really good. They've got a solid junior group, probably even next season. But they don't have a single senior playing. And so when you don't have a single senior playing, it's tough because you miss some of that leadership, but you also have just a young, exciting, fun team. Let's go over and talk about the Andrews Tellico game as well, because that was a game they won at the very last minute. They won by 2. And you'll see at the end of this highlight, Keegan Ellis hit a basket to win this game for them. But it was a back and forth game. Telco had some runs. Andrews had some runs. And it was really good to see a young team at the end of a game make the plays necessary. Their last possession, their last full possession, they held the ball for 45 seconds, just moving it around. And then they finally got the Keegan Ellis basket that we'll see here in a second that enabled them to win the game. And they also hit enough free throws down the stretch that really kept them with that marginal lead over, because you kept feeling like Telco Plains at any minute is going to take over this game. And here's that play where Keegan Ellis finishes it to win the game for him, because that put them up 3. They go down, Telco fouls or gets fouled, and only hits 1 out of 2 free throws. And then Andrews was able to hang on to the ball to win it. But all in all, good showing by Andrews. I think Andrews is going to continue to get better throughout the year. And while they're probably not going to fight for first or second place, similar to what Jake was saying about Murphy, I really think Andrews is one of those teams. They're going to have a night where Isaac Weaver and Bateman and Ellis all get hot from 3, and they're going to shock somebody, and they're going to hit 15 threes, and the press is going to bother the other team a little bit, and they'll win a game they shouldn't. And when they win that game that they shouldn't, that's going to be one where you see them really take over and change what the conference might look like. And I think that's what you're looking from Murphy and from Andrews. They might win a game. They might beat a Hayesville or a Swain that flips the conference and allows another team to win the conference that you wouldn't expect, or to come in second place, or whatever it may be. But moving on to another good slew of games we had. This one was live on the Maroon Devil Network, and we got some highlights, compliments of them. Swain beat Franklin 83-70 in an absolutely super fun game to watch. We've got those highlights broken into 2 parts, and Franklin dominated this game early. And then Swain just kept putting it on him. But I mean, so much skill in this game. Tons of threes. Griffin Green lit it up from 3. Miles McClure had a big night as well, but I think the big thing you're seeing about Swain is, in reality, Swain's just super deep. I do think they're the deepest team in our conference, as far as you go down the bench to their 10th, 9th, 10th guy, and those guys are guys that can still, on any given night, give them a big contribution. Let me go to the second part of that highlight. And so I think that's a really big thing for them. As you see another dunk by Frank. Every time we get a Franklin highlight, you're going to see a dunk just about. But Isaiah Collins, huge night. And then his little brother, Josh Collins, who's found some varsity playing time on a team with, I think, 9 seniors, hit a couple of big threes. And then the story of the night was Griffin Green and Donovan Groenwald kind of got into a little dispute. Nothing overly physical, nothing dirty. But you see Donovan Groenwald there towards the end of the second period. We don't have final stats on it. But when Donovan Groenwald got upset with Griffin, Donovan absolutely turned it on, and that may have been the difference in the game. You don't want to make young Donovan Groenwald mad, because he's missed a whole year of basketball, and he still looks like the 20-point scorer we saw as a sophomore, Jake.
Yeah, the Collins kids you mentioned, I mean, it's pretty awesome to see them playing both on varsity and both playing at the same time. I mean, Isaiah, I think he was on our Player of the Year award watch list, our preseason one that we released in our preseason article. And I think rightfully so. I mean, we saw him come out and play really well against Franklin. And what was the final score of that game?
83-70.
83-70. So a good showing from both teams, obviously. But one thing me and you have talked about kind of in private is Swain. One place where Swain might struggle, and that may be that may keep them from winning a conference championship, is the fact that they're just defensively, they give up a lot of points.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things you see is on any given night, they're trying to just outscore you.
Yeah.
And they're going to run into a team, And I saved that highlight for last just because I wanted to prove that point. They're going to run into a team like Hayesville. Listen, Hayesville can score in the 80s when they need to, but they're really good defensively, Jake. I mean, really good defensively. Play great team defense, and they got a 6'7" kid in McTaggart inside. And same thing like Murphy. Murphy's got a ton of size inside and got some athletic guards. Same thing, Andrews. Swain's going to run to teams that play some really good defense. Franklin's not one of those teams. Franklin, 100%, they want to press you to turn you over or outscore you. That's what they do. And so I think you're absolutely right in the fact that Swain can fill it up, but their team defense is going to have to get better as a whole if they want to find a way to challenge for that first place in conference.
Yeah, and I think that'll happen. I mean, what we see in our area is slow starts, and then around Christmas time, you get a lot better, and then maybe you have a little bit off for Christmas, and then you get another slow start, and then finally come playoff time, you're in your final form. So I would think their defense is going to get better just as the year goes on and as they get to practice more. But we'll see. I mean, that Hayesville Swain game, whenever that does come up, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's one I can't wait for. And honestly, Jake, Hayesville and Swain actually had the potential to play 4 times before playoffs. Could you imagine that? Because Hayesville and Swain are on opposite sides of the Swain tournament, Christmas tournament. Then you got the conference tournament, both home get. So including playoffs, like how crazy would it be if Swain and Hayesville played 4 or 5 times this year? Because I think it's fully possible.
Yeah, and I mean,
I would not pick either one of them to win all 4 or 5.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, obviously, if that happened, if they play tomorrow, Hayesville's going to be favored. But out of 5 times, I mean, I just don't see any way either team wins every one of those games. But go ahead and let's talk some Hayesville basketball. Show us some highlights. They got a big overtime win on Friday against Tallulah Falls.
Yeah, played a really good Tallulah Falls team that is 6-1 overall with Hayesville as their only loss. And I tell you what, playing at Tallulah Falls, what an environment. That gym makes Andrew's gym look gigantic. It's smaller than Nant Hale's gym, but they pack their student section in there, and it takes up 2/3 of the stand, Jake, as a boarding school. And just absolutely crazy environment to play with. But Colby Ash and Jake McTaggart, the 2 seniors, 2 guys on our watch list, guys that absolutely dominated. McTaggart had, I want to say, 12 in the 4th quarter. Colby Ash, I think, had like 16 in the 3rd quarter. Just led the way for the victory, like you'd expect. And every single time they needed a big shot, Ash or McTaggart came up clutch. And Colby Ash just frustrated the ever-living dog out of him.
McTaggart, we're in 23 instead of 40.
Yes, but watch this. How many 6'7" kids take you off the dribble from the 3-point line and hop, step, dunk? One of the keys to the game was McTaggart had a great night rebounding. I don't have his rebounding stats, and eventually fouled out Tallulah Falls' big man at the end of the 4th quarter. And I actually think Hazel was down at that point. But when they fouled out Tallulah Falls' big man, you kind of knew Tallulah Falls didn't have another kid that can match up with Jake. And from there, Hazel just fed him. Colby Ash got him the ball. And you know, I think you'll see more balanced scoring from Hayesville. It was a really odd night, Jake, in the fact that I think Hayesville had 3 kids foul out. We went over to Georgia, Hayesville did, and those Georgia referees knew that was the only time they were going to see Hayesville all year. And so I heard some of the Hayesville fans say we had to play 5-on-8 and still found a way to win. But when I talked to Coach Cottrell after the game and talked to Colby Ash, they both just said playing in this environment and winning a game like this is really just going to propel their team and help them have an even better start than we thought they could have. And what the fun thing is, Jake, and I'll go ahead and bring that up now, and we'll talk as we talk about next week's schedule. Is Hayesville and Tallulah Falls are going to play at Hayesville on January 22nd. And guess what? That game's going to be on fyntv.com. And if the first game forebodes anything for the second game, that's one. I don't care if you're a Murphy fan. I don't care if you're a Swain fan. That's one you'll want to tune in for if you just like some basketball.
Yeah, speaking about the foul trouble Hayesville got in, I mean, I think that's something we've seen. You mentioned Swain getting foul trouble, Murphy getting foul trouble, and now you've mentioned Hayesville's foul trouble. I think discipline just comes with playing games, and I think we'll see all of our teams kind of become more disciplined when they get into basketball shape. Because I mean, all these teams, half the kids, maybe 75% of the kids on all these teams are football players, and right now their mindset is football. So obviously, we're going to see them commit some hard fouls, and when you're getting ticky tack stuff called on you, obviously that's going to add up. So I just think we have some really good coaches in the conference, and they're gonna get their teams more disciplined as they get to have more time on the court.
And speaking of that, Jake, the only game we've not really, or only team we've not really talked about in our local area, we've talked about Andrews, Murphy, Hayesville, Swain, Cherokee. We've mentioned Franklin just because they've been playing all our Smoky Mountain Conference teams. But you went to that Hiawassee Dam Andrews game last night. I know the girls' game wasn't really close, but you said it was a pretty good boys' game. Just share us with that one a little bit before we go to break and talk about our upcoming schedule.
Yeah, West Dam's pretty good basketball team. I mean, we don't have their roster and we don't have any of their stats because nothing's on Max Preps and they haven't gotten back to us yet. But hopefully they'll get back to us and we'll be able to talk about these kids by name. But they've got a good point guard and they've got some good shooters. They've also got a good big down low. They're a pretty good team from top to bottom. Like I said, you can't talk about their stats or anything or mention them by name because we don't have any of that yet. But I mean, I'd say they're easily, and we talked about it in the pre-show, easily the favorite to win the Little Smoky Mountain Conference.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to them and the Highlands boys. But I definitely think the Hiawassee Dam boys probably have a leg up. And I think that Hiawassee Dam girls and Highlands girls will be, that's when you could see them split for the conference championship, going 1-1 against each other. But let's take a quick break, Jake, and we will come back and we're going to talk about all of our upcoming games, including some games on FYN TV that we'll have on the schedule in the next week or so here. So Caleb Tom for Jake West. You're watching the Western North Carolina Shoot-Around.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the endless aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations.
Hey girl, back so soon?
Yeah.
Third time this morning.
Feeling too familiar with the bathroom these days? It's not just you.
Hey girl, look who made it 15 minutes.
At Erlanger Urology, we make it easy to talk about overactive bladder and treatments that work.
Hey girl, you not coming in?
No, I'm good.
Well, okay. I'll be here, because I'm stuck.
Learn more at itsnotjustyou.com. Erlanger Urology.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Welcome back, Jake West, Caleb Tallman, the Western North Carolina Shoot-Around presented by Team FYN Sports. Caleb, tell us about some of these good games coming up this week from Wednesday to Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start off with our favorites, Jake, not because it's Hayesville basketball, but because you and I, our passion is getting to do games on FYNTV.com. And next week, we don't have any at the end of this week, but next week on December 13th and December 14th, we're going to have Hayesville Hiawassee Dam live on FYNTV.com. And Andrews Hayesville live on FYNTV.com. Those start times are both right around 5 p.m. Neither Hiawassee Dam or Andrews have a JV girls. So with that, we will be starting with our coverage of JV boys at 5 o'clock. And I believe I'm not going to be there Monday, which is rare for me, Jake. Monday's my anniversary, so thankfully you're stepping in. And so you'll be over there Monday for honestly, I think that Hiawassee Dam Hayesville boys game, really even the girls game too, especially Hayesville being on their home court. I think as far as games go, getting to do them live on FYN TV, I'm a little jealous of you because I think you've got a pretty good slate there on Monday evening.
I think both games, Monday and Tuesday. I think especially the girls match up well. And then, I mean, you said it. I mean, if Andrews gets hot, they could give Hayesville a hard time in the varsity boys game. So we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll be two really good games on FYNTV.com on Monday and Tuesday.
And we promise you folks, we do have a year-long deal with Hayesville, but we're definitely going to be bringing you some other games on FYNTV.com. Jake, I know you do a great job talking with all of our local athletic directors and principals. We're going to be getting you some Andrews and Murphy basketball and such. And, of course, always when these teams come and visit at other places, those games will be included as well. And, hey, we're still working on even trying to get some wrestling on. And I think just to give a little hint at it, I think you and Robbinsville's wrestling coach, Coach Odom, have an interview upcoming that fans need to check out our Facebook and Twitter page because it'll be coming on. So we've got lots of coverage all around the conference. But to get into other games that we have coming up, we're not going to mention every single one of them because sometimes we don't need to mention when someone plays Nantahala or Blue Ridge. But just some games that we want to highlight is starting off really as our show's going right now, Jake. But I know those games are not live TV coverage anywhere. Cherokee and Tuscola play tonight, boys and girls, and that should be a really good matchup. What Cherokee team will we see? I think the further we get into the schedule, if Cherokee keeps racking up wins, maybe we have to start saying, because we're talking about how they're inconsistent, but I'm pretty sure both boys and girls are 3-1 right now. Or I think the boys are 2-2 and the girls are 3-1. So maybe as the season gets along, they get a little more consistent. And I know a game that we definitely want to talk about here for a second is Murphy Inca, which is going on probably right as our show's going on right now. And so tell us what you think. So I think that Murphy Inca girls matchup has the potential to be another barn burner. Ray Gutierrez not shying down from anyone. Does he sit there? You and him are pretty good friends, Jake. Does he just sit there in the summer and look at the top 10 ranked teams in all of North Carolina and Georgia and call every coach and try to get them on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and I think that's what his plan is. I don't know. I think maybe if he could go back, he might not schedule this gauntlet of a schedule that he has coming up. But I mean, he's went back to back games with Fannin County, number 3 and 2A. He's got Inca, who's really good, and they're 3A. And then on Saturday, he's got Lumpkin County. Lumpkin County's number 1 in Georgia in 3A. So really tough stretch coming up. But yeah, tonight it's going to be big against the Inca. And then if you're not doing anything on Saturday, go to Dahlonega and watch that game. I mean, that should be a very, very good basketball game. With 2 of the top girls teams in our area, one in North Georgia, one in Western North Carolina, going at it at 6 o'clock on Saturday in Dahlonega. And
then even so, Murphy's, I mean, they've got 4 games. The girls team does. The boys don't play Lumpkin. That's a girls only game. But they also play Hiawassee Dam on Friday, which I don't care how it goes when for the most part, when Murphy plays one of their inner county rivals, it just always seems like bedlam almost. I mean, I understand the Andrews girls are down and probably will not give Murphy much of a game. But I think that boys game especially, and then even the girls game could potentially be a really good matchup because those kids want those county bragging rights, even if it only lasts for a couple weeks till the next time they play.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the one thing I will say is I think possibly, Jake, we could find out a lot about the Murphy boys team. Tonight, just because they play Inca. And here's the deal. Inca plays in a 3A, 4A split conference, and they're 6-0 right now, Jake. They've beat Pisgah, Pine Lake Prep, Mountain Heritage. Here's the deal. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. I don't think we're going to say, if Murphy's boys get blown out tonight, that it's going to be a situation because Inca's just really good. But if Murphy boys play them close, we might have to rethink our preseason conference standings. So it's really a great game for Murphy boys because it's you have the opportunity to say, okay, if we lose this one, it's not the end of the world. But if we play them close, it really might be a good stepping stone for our boys team.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Murphy boys are able to keep this within 10 to 15 points, I mean, I think that's a win as long as you don't go and get blown out on your home court. But we'll see what kind of product they put out there tonight.
And then another game coming up, Swain and Franklin, Jake. They played Monday, and they're also playing Friday. And those were two great games, two absolutely great games. And so really interesting to see how that one could go. And the thing is, this time it's on Franklin's home court. And so I'll be really curious to see how, especially in that boys game, they match up. And then also in the girls game, Tori Inslee for Franklin had 31, Jake, against Swain's girls on Monday. And so really that was the difference in the Swain girls game with Franklin is if you're Swain's girls, you come from Monday to Friday and you get there on Friday and you just, okay, we cannot let the Inslee girl single-handedly beat us again. And maybe, if you limit her, that probably gives you a chance to go to Franklin and revenge your Monday loss. And then I'm sure the Franklin boys are hoping to defend home court after letting it slip away against Swain on Monday.
Yeah, I agree. Those are going to be two good games. I'm sure they'll be on the Franklin Panther Sports Network. So if you're not doing anything, tune over to that and watch that. They're really good. They put out a really good product, and they're good about working with us. So tune over and watch that game. Those guys are really good at what they do.
And then, as I said, I think only two games we haven't mentioned. Hayesville goes to Highlands on Friday night. That should be a pretty good girls game. I think it'd be a disappointment if the boys team didn't win by 20 plus. But the girls game has the potential to be a really good matchup. And then one of the matchups, Jake, that I really want to get some information on, maybe have to decide to go to Robbinsville instead of Highlands, is Robbinsville and Smoky Mountain play on Friday. And I think that one, Jake, has the potential to be an absolutely thriller of a girls matchup because Smoky Mountain's girls are really, really good. And we know Robbinsville's girls are really, really good. So that one has the potential to be an incredible game.
Yeah, I agree. Two really good teams, and I think you're right. One of us definitely needs to be in Robbinsville on Friday night. We'll figure that out off air, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun basketball coming up this week.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Is as much as I love football, and football up until this point, Jake, has been the lifeblood of our Team F Lion Sports Company. One of the great things about basketball is it seems like whether it's for us as reporters and media members, or if you're just a guy that lives in Western North Carolina and loves basketball or a fan, there's basketball almost every single night. You never have to go far to find a good game, especially every coach that I've talked to, Jake, as I did our preseason interview circuit, has basically said the exact same thing. Man, there's going to be a lot of parity this year. They talk about how stinking good our boys and girls conferences are going to be this year. in that every single team has a chance to beat every single team almost, especially when you look 1 through 5 in girls or 1 through 4 in girls. And really, in the boys side, Jake, I think pretty much every single boys team has the potential to win or lose to every single boys team. I'm not saying teams aren't favored, because that's absolutely the truth. Teams are favored. But if Murphy or Andrews came out and beat Hayesville, if they had the right night, that wouldn't stun me. It really wouldn't. And so as we wrap up our show, one thing I wanted to do real quick, Jake, is I just want to share with everyone that watches our show, especially during basketball season. We kind of just got it started during football season. I just wanted to take fans over to our YouTube account real quick. If you want all kinds of coverage, just go to youtube.com, search Team FYN Sports in the search bar, and here we are on our YouTube account. And I've got a couple of videos that aren't even uploaded yet, Jake. But if you look at it, just in the last, 5 days, we have interviews with Fannin and Murphy's girls coach, interviews with Murphy's girls coach, Murphy's boys coach. We have 5 highlights up, and that doesn't include our 2 Murphy Fannin highlights that I still need to upload. I had a slight issues with those last night on our YouTube account. But there's all kinds of stuff over on our YouTube. So we'd love if you would go over there, subscribe and share it with your friends, because on any given moment, go over there and check out the highlights. Me and Jake put a lot of work into making highlight packages, because our number one goal, Team F1 Sports, is just to highlight and promote these young athletes. It has nothing to do with Jake and I. It just has to do with the incredible athletes that we get the opportunity to cover. And I want to thank all the coaches that I've gotten with and Jake's gotten with that have given us access to their team video and such. And if you're a coach or someone involved with one of the programs and you don't see a ton of your highlights, we do it. For us, that's coverage that we get to give at no cost to you. If you share your Huddle account or however you guys do your team film with us, we'll make sure to produce great highlights for you. And even when it comes to, if you have a young athlete that's trying to go to the next level, that's something Jake and I have contacts with college coaches and recruiters. And at the very minimum, we can try to help make you a highlight video to get to those kind of people. So we just want to thank all our fans that are watching the show. And if you're a coach, like I said, get with Jake and I. Hit us up on the Team F1 Sports Twitter or Facebook, and we'll get back with you quick, because we'd love to get more coverage in our Western North Carolina area. You got anything else, Jake?
No, that's it. I'm ready to watch the basketball.
All right, folks. Caleb Tallman for Jake West. You've been watching the Western North Carolina Shootaround. Thanks for joining us this week. Hey, hit us up next week, and we'll be back with more highlights and more coverage of Western North Carolina basketball.